I am Dr. T.P. Shashikumar,
retired space scientist. We are going to see geography subject towards UPSC Civil Service Prelims. In the earlier discussions, we learned about the universe, solar system, Earth in a very brief manner. Also seen the Earth from the inner core to the mantle, the surface structure. We also discussed about the chemistry, physics, the chemical inside the Earth, the structure of the Earth from the geophysical and geological point of view. In terms of the 7 plates, the plate movements, both the geophysical plate movement and the continental plate movement from Pangaea to the present Earth, with 7 different plates which are causing earthquake, volcano, tsunami, etc. Now the real geography part is what we are trying to discuss today. That is coming to the surface. When you come to the surface, it is divided into 3 major parts. One is mountain, second one is plateau, and third one is the plain. Or maybe a plain with localized high relief. Relief means height, some height, and little more higher like hills. Any hill which is of more than 1000 meter height is called a mountain. That's how it is divided. So how is it formed? The mountain systems, the fold mountains, the block mountains. The block mountains is the dip which happens, maybe a earthquake or a shifting of the earth could create mountains. The fold mountains are when the plate movements which hit each other, as we have discussed earlier. Therefore there could be a mountain range, like we have got Western Ghats, or in Europe we have got the Alps. Himalayas is one of the biggest one. So these features of plateaus, features of plain, features of mountain, this is what is to be generally learned in the geography. But the biggest part of geography becomes the hydrosphere. Hydrosphere is the water content is more. So there are 2 categories when we talk about the geography. One is the major land surface type, which how, why and all that we can discuss. And the other major component is the hydrosphere. So what do we learn in this? The major landforms we divide into desert or where there are no water. The other extreme is full of water around, that could be islands. And we have got the water floating, the gradation based on the denudation and the weather concept, the erosion which happens on the earth, and accumulation of the agents behind it, and the wind structure, the water runoff, that means the land is taken away by water, the subsurface flow, it just flows on the top, and there are land forms but unusable, like full of water contents like snow, ice portion, and there could be glaciers. So we also discuss about the glacier. These are all the different landforms, starting from no water desert to the glacier. These have to be understood. This has to be learned. When you come to the hydrosphere, the major oceans, understand the difference between ocean and sea and such words have to be understood. Why Pacific Ocean? Why Arabian Sea? Why Indian Ocean? Why Bay of Bengal? It's a bay. Understand these differences. So the classification among the hydrosphere has to be understood. The world of ocean has got a floor which is called bathymetry. The sea, under the sea we have got bigger mountains probably than Himalayas. So what is below the sea and the floor of the sea, and from there how the sea flows inside sea also is there. The water flows inside the sea because of various reasons, because of temperature difference, the undulation under the sea currents could be there. Temperature difference could make a lot of convection in the sea. That means the movement can happen. Because of the convection, the movement of the sea, there could be the saline. Generally sea is a saline water, but that we have got dead sea where the water flow itself is not there. So it's almost like a frozen land structure sort of a thing, like a glacier. So we learn about the salinity and oceanic sea water content. There are a lot of minerals inside the sea. Therefore sea also have got a conductivity. Generally saline water improves the conductivity and the mineral improves it much higher. Therefore sea water is called ferromagnetic, saline because of salt, ferromagnetic because of the minerals, and then it's a highly temperature varying surface. From surface to bottom the temperature varies. Therefore it is a thermohaline ferromagnetic fluid. Understand that portion of it because of the physics in sea water and life in sea water and different structures. How is it settling there? School scheme, where the settlement of fish happens, and which are the other marine life available. There could be plants there and fungus. We have got a lot of pearls. So the geography, if you learn, you will also learn about the economics of that. The chemical composition of the sea which creates the life possible and life not possible, the Dead Sea, the color of the sea, the temperature of the sea. When you look at from satellite, we have got a sea surface temperature which is categorized based on the satellite images based on different colors. So the thermal remote sensing is used for understanding the sea. There are specific satellites which can take pictures of the sea to understand sea patterns. The water pressure and the density changes happens because of the temperature and the flow patterns, and therefore the organic mineral life also will be different. The surface will have tides and deep sea will not have tides. Understand the mechanism of how the tides are formed. The water which is contributed to the sea could be partly from the rivers. So when you talk about the hydrosphere, it is not the sea alone, it is also the river structure which we have to understand. Understand the major rivers, the rivers which has contributory and distributary system, and then flow patterns of river and where it starts, the mountains, and the power of flow which it has got. So general information about the rivers have to be understood. The major rivers Basically, when we learn Indian geography, we must learn all the rivers and which state it belongs to, and what are the power generation rivers, why some rivers are very much hazardous for people, but flood happens, but some rivers doesn't have flood because of the geography of the landforms. There are deep rivers which runs in the mountainous regions, and there are shallow rivers which runs in the plateau and near the sea coast, in both east and west coast. Therefore, we should understand the erosion which is created by the river which flows. So the major river, and the major river, when we talk about earlier, settlements were around the valleys and around the rivers, or beside the rivers and beside the valleys. So understand why the movement of people were in this region, and the major riverside settlements, cities, the major human activity happened in those places. So understand about it. The rivers, and the longest river, the shortest river, the widest river, all that patterns have to be understood in the whole world and very specific to India. The waterfalls also to be understood. When we talk about river generates waterfall in some places. So understand which is the highest one, which is in India, which is very specific to your native state. Then the settlement of water in the land area, like islands are settlements in the water surrounded places. Around the water, if you have got land, it becomes a lake. So understand the lakes, the concept of lake, the clean water lake, drinking water lake, and the salt lakes which we have. Understand the pattern of such things and the dimensions of such the lakes. See, for example, there are wonderful lakes like Manasa Sarovar near Kailash, and just beside that there is the Akshasthal, which doesn't have any inhabitants. The other side we have got inhabitants. But understand why and why these are different. So understanding lake is a big study. And the geological, geophysical, earth characteristic of the soil, characteristic of the rivers, characteristic of mountains, desert, all these together is what is the core subject geography, which leads to the real geography of earth. So after this, probably we will have to only discuss the atmospheric pattern, which is again an extensive study. So we have started from the universe, came to the solar system, then came to earth, went inside earth, talked about the volcano and tsunami, etc., and then we discussed about the earth. Now we have got to go to the layers of atmosphere. Avaha, Pravaha, Uddhaha, Stada, Paripurvaga, Vahav, the 140 kilometers around. When you speak about earth, it is not earth alone. Earth along with the atmosphere together is called earth, because earth alone do not revolve and rotate. Earth along with the atmosphere is what is within the gravitational field. So we will understand that part in the next bit. So when we talk about atmosphere, we finish the real earth geography. Then we will have to talk about the world geography. So these surface of the earth, when we talk about the landforms and the hydro, plus the atmosphere, which are the major factors which influence the human geography, the humanity and the life pattern and settlements and all that we talk about in detail in the next bit. Then we will come to the Indian geography. So this is how the whole geography is going to be dealt, and that is how we have to learn geography.